Hello. I've had a bit of a cold this week, so sorry if I sound a bit nasally and look a bit rough, but I'm really eager to discuss and get other people's opinions about this novel that I just read. And I wonder if how I feel about it has been influenced by the fact that I've been ill, because I think that can happen sometimes. But I did finish reading Enlightenment by Sarah Perry, and it's one of those books that there's so much that I liked about this novel and that I really appreciated about it, but I didn't fall in love with it, and I didn't fall in love with its characters like I know some readers have. So it follows the story of a man named Thomas, who is in his 50s, and a teenage girl named Grace, and they have a strong friendship with each other. He's known her ever since she was born, and we follow them beginning in the late 1990s in a small town in Essex, and we follow them over a period of time. And at one point, the story leaps forward 10 years in time, and then it leaps forward another 10 years in time. So we follow them over quite a long time, and their relationship has lots of ups and downs during this time, but there are also many other characters and many other kind of subplots going on in this novel. But primarily, it's about how Thomas, he's a journalist and a writer, and he gets asked to write about a comet which is traveling across the sky in the late 90s, and this sparks an interest in him in astronomy and science, which continues to develop over time. And both Thomas and Grace are members of a Methodist church, so they're both grappling with issues to do with faith and religion, but also with living in the world and wanting to follow their desires, because Thomas, he's a semi-closeted man, or he's a man who really has two separate lives, in that when he lives in Essex, he's church going, he keeps very much to himself, but when he goes to London, he meets and has affairs with other men, and so has a whole other life there. And Grace is just developing, she's becoming a young woman, and she's very conflicted about what she wants to do in her life, and following her faith, and how when she's confronted with certain things, how that challenges her sense of faith. But there's also a woman from the distant past, who's a kind of ghost or specter or presence, and Thomas finds some clues about her life when she moved to this area, when she lived here, and when she was conducting some scientific experiments, and she becomes almost like a companion to Thomas, that who might be a ghost, or might be just a kind of a different personality that he's kind of communing with while looking into all of these scientific issues. So I think part of my issue with this novel is that there is so much going on, and so many layers to the story, and especially when the story leaps forward in time, I found that to be a bit disjointed and disorientating as I was trying to follow the characters and what was happening with them. But I also think because Sarah Perry uses this technique where she'll introduce a scene with a character but not let you know who that character is. So it'll just be like an anonymous like man or woman that you're following, and as you get more details about what's happening in the scene, you can kind of piece together who it is. But it's not bad that I think a reader is made to pay attention to what's happening to the narrative and to really figure out what's going on. But it almost feels like that the author is purposely withholding what is happening, so is making it like less clear for the reader, at least like initially. initially. But also, I was listening to a podcast with Sarah Perry, talking about this novel because I wanted to think more about it and try to figure out my feelings about it. And she said an interesting thing where she remarked that when she writes characters, she doesn't really start with personality, but she starts with how they have a particular position on certain ideas. And so it's more about how the characters interact with each other coming from different points of view, rather than starting with their personalities. Now, there is so much about the characters in this novel that she does to imbue them, with life, with emotion, but I kind of wonder if maybe that makes them feel like a bit distant from me, or people that I can't really connect with in the same way that I do with some novels, where I'll become so interested in the character, whether they're a good character or a bad character. I'm so intrigued by them that I want to read more about them. Whereas with these characters, I feel like I was just kind of like drifting along with them, and I didn't feel like too emotionally invested in their stories, which is a shame, because I think there are lots of aspects of their personalities, and these are characters that don't act always like make the right decisions, or they make morally questionable decisions. And I think that's really interesting. It makes them like quite complicated characters and people, as we all are. So in that way makes them really realistic. But at the same time, they were characters that I wasn't able to get like fully invested in. I think it is quite interesting in the structure of it, how Sarah Perry uses both articles that Thomas writes. She reproduces that in the text, as well as letters and texts and emails. And actually, one aspect of the novel I thought was really effective and really moving was because Thomas becomes really infatuated with a man named James, and at one point, he is writing messages to him, to an email, and he gets a kind of automated response saying that James isn't using this email anymore, won't be checking it, and it becomes this like outlet for Thomas. He relates his feelings to James in a much more straightforward way than if he knew the messages were going to be read. But because he knows that they won't be, he starts writing him more and more, and we keep getting this automated response from James. And I just found that a really interesting like quirk of way of how we really want to emotionally connect with other people sometimes, and have things we want to tell them, but don't feel brave enough, to actually do that, to confess everything that we're feeling. And it's really interesting how that storyline develops. So that was something I really liked about the novel. But also I liked how it explored different levels of unrequited love. Like all of the main characters, basically they experience some kind of unrequited love, or love that isn't able to be fully realized, and this kind of reflects the overall theme of looking at astrology, looking at bodies in the sky, and how we as people, just like all of planets and comets and things out in the universe, are kind of orbiting each other, and but never or rarely actually connecting with each other, that we just kind of circle each other in this way and look for a connection. But sometimes we're closer, sometimes we're more distant from each other, sometimes we just admire people from afar, and how this is an expression of different forms of love. And I also really appreciated how there was so much beautiful writing in this novel. I mean, I love Sarah Perry's lush descriptions of the landscape, that sometimes in the landscape it would, like, the point of view would revert to the natural world itself and animals and ways of experiencing the country landscape in Essex, and but also her descriptions of the celestial bodies. And so whenever observations were being made about the path of the comet or the night sky. Yeah, it went into these absolutely gorgeous descriptions of it, and so that made it really pleasurable to read. And so, like I said, there are so many parts of this novel that I did really like and appreciate, but yeah, I just didn't fall really passionately in love with it, and didn't feel as strongly about it as I did with Sarah Perry's previous novel, The Essex Serpent. And for people who have read this previous novel by Sarah Perry, there is a little Easter egg in this novel of indication to the main character in The Essex Serpent, which is kind of pleasurable to read, and a kind of touchstone to that past novel. And also I like how with certain authors there can be like a terrain or environment that they write about continuously in a number of different novels. And I like how Sarah Perry, in this being her fourth novel, that she's really laid claim to the territory of Essex, and or at least like fictionally, I know, recreating this whole world and this landscape in her fiction, and how there can be some characters that can recur or have a presence in different books, and it goes into creating this like larger picture of a fictional worlds that the author is creating. So yeah, lots about this novel that I liked but didn't fully love. But if you have read this book, I would love to know what you think about it. Please let me know about that in the comments below. If you're interested in reading it now, I would be really glad to hear about it, because yeah, it's in many ways a really gorgeous story, but and gorgeous book too. I love on the inside cover of this special edition I have, there's stars, and yeah, and I love how, you know, that reflects the whole theme of the novel. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye bye.